So there's this question, as a young person, a person has saved 10 million francs CFA. What would you recommend that person does? Start a business here in Cameroon with all of that money, or you travel out of the country? How would you answer a question like that? What's the easiest way that I can explain to someone, what exactly a financial planner is supposed to do, and why are they important for me to even work with them at this stage of my career?
Yeah, I think one way to put it is that they are a financial doctor. If I want to buy a car and I'm young and I just say, okay, I'm going to buy a Camry or something, and it's going to cost me 5 million. And I said no, because I'm going to show everyone I've arrived. I will rather go buy a car for 15 million, right? Do I need a car for 15 million? I may need a car, but not necessarily for 15 million. That difference again between 15 million and 5 is lifestyle inflation.
Hello everyone. Today I'm here with Edmond Ade. He's a certified financial planner and the founder of Premier Private Wealth Africa. He's based in Rwanda, and it's a pleasure to have you on my panel, if I may say.
Thank you so much for having me, Sidet. It's an absolute pleasure.
So you are currently in Douala. Can we get a backstory onto why you decided to make this trip to Douala?
Absolutely, yes. So I'm here to find a way to really talk about building wealth, creating wealth for Africans. I think the idea of wealth in Africa is something that in some quarters is like a taboo.
Okay.
You know, that we want to make talking about wealth creation be a subject on the dinner table, all right? And I think that for Africans, we have a lot of ideas, misconceptions around what it means to create wealth. There are a lot of people trying to get rich very quick. We've seen people who have tried to venture into Forex. There's a lot of talk about Forex trading out there. We have people that just don't understand the building blocks of actually creating wealth in a long-term, sustainable fashion. And our mission is really to help Africans, to guide Africans to harness African wealth and channel that to African development. So we want to start with this first event happening in Douala on the 13th of December at Starland from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the idea is to create an environment where we can talk about some of these building blocks, some of the concepts, some of the principles, and what have been tried and tested strategies to create wealth for the last 150 years, and teach Africans how to go about it, what solutions are available, and how they can actually tap into that. We're going to have a lot of experts, from South Africa, some from Cameroon, who'll be joining myself to talk about these different strategies and frameworks.
Okay. And if I may ask, why specifically did you pick Cameroon to start with? I mean, because the company is based in Rwanda. So why did you pick Cameroon?
Yeah, charity begins at home. I am a Cameroonian. And so, of course, if you venture out there and you learn new things, it's only normal that you bring it back home. But also because I was actually privileged to have met a young man, someone I really admire the way it works for Topless. He met me in Rwanda, and he was able to convince me to actually put together an event, to bring together young people and really share knowledge, inspire them, and excite them really about how to get on that journey to wealth creation and financial freedom. So I'm very grateful for the help he's putting on his team to be able to get us where we are. If it wasn't for him, we probably would not have done the event. So I'm really appreciative of that. And so that inspires me to be able to come back home and actually educate our own. And hopefully there will be more events to come in the coming months and years.
Would love that. So can you give me three different demographics of people that you would be interested in speaking to at the event? Like three sets of people that you think that would be the most ideal to benefit from what you have to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's for everyone, right?
Okay.
But I would say anyone from age 18 who is already in the capacity, in the working capacity. I think we have a demographic where some people start to work a bit earlier. Those who leave school from as it were class 7 or class 6 these days, sometimes they go straight into trade.
Yeah.
It's never too early to start the journey of wealth creation. The earlier you start, the better. So it's really for everyone. But if I was to narrow down demographics, obviously for those who are just finished university, starting to work,
Okay.
It's a good time to start to understand different dimensions of short-term, medium-term, and long-term financial planning and wealth management. And so we can give them tips and ideas on how to position themselves and not make some of the mistakes that we have made and mistakes we've learned from others. And we want to teach them how to avoid those mistakes. So that will be one category. Certainly, you know, people in their mid, I would say mid generation, mid 30s and, 40s who are also just stabilizing their jobs and want to come and learn strategies on protecting what they've already built and grow it even more. Those ones can also come. And in particular, I'd like to encourage a lot of women. I think in these conversations, it's important to make sure that women understand that they can come in their own right. Because they are there not only to support their men, but also to build and create wealth for themselves. And so we'd like to encourage a lot of women to also come in and participate. But really, it's for everyone.
Okay. And so far, you've been in Cameroon for this period of time which you came in. What are some of the common, spending errors or habits that you've noticed amongst the younger version or younger population who currently lives in Cameroon? So, what are some of those, stereotypes that you do not, readily, agree with?
Yeah. So I think it's important to state that often when we think about wealth, we think just about earning more money, right? Which is good. It's important to earn more money. But I think even more important is how we spend. And we are in a society where our spending habits have been, I would say, we've been conditioned. Okay. We've conditioned from early childhood on what it means to show up wealth, right? So if you see someone with a big house, everyone wants to have a duplex. Yeah. A big car, everyone wants to have like an SUV or a high-end car, branded clothing.
Yeah.
People doing all kinds of spending on birthdays and just going out and spending a lot of money on the weekends, on drinks and socializing. Those things may be important, may be necessary. However, I think we are overspending on them and it's creating what we call lifestyle inflation, such that we don't then have the extra income to be able to put into the strategies that we're talking about. So the idea is to create that framework which helps to change mindsets, what we call behavioral finance. So it helps to change behaviors around financing.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it allows people to keep way more of what they earn. And being able to keep that means they can now be able to deploy those in more strategic investment opportunities. And how to then do that is also part of the process. So that's what this is about. So it's really a three pillar framework. Number one, personal financial management and all these things we're talking about, lifestyle choices and how they affect your ability to earn income or keep income. Then the structured process to do financial planning, which involves looking at your goals and objectives in the short, medium, and long term, quantifying them using financial tools, and then being able to find the right solutions, investment solutions that can then help you to achieve that. So it's a very structured process in that way. So that's what it is. And I think, just going around and seeing how young people are all trying to show up, basically competing to outspend each other on the weekend, just spending money on way too many things, on clothing, on branded clothing for that matter, and on days out and all that. It's really some of the reasons why I believe we are still very much a very poor community.
Okay. So there's this question. I think I've seen it, trending for the first couple of weeks online, and it's a popular question. You know that we are from a society where the young people have the impression that the country, has not given them the best of what maybe it has to offer in terms of opportunities, in terms of in life essentially.
Yeah.
So the question is the question which I saw and which I would like to find, where you stand with a mindset like that, because most of finances has to do with, a mindset shift. So the question is, as a young person, let's say, hypothetically speaking, if the person is 28, 30, or from 25 upwards, and the person has saved up 10 million francs CFA, what would you recommend that person does? There were two things. Either you start a business here in Cameroon with all of that money, or you travel out of the country with that money. So how would you answer a question like that? Like, what goes on in your mind? You know, would you have a completely different idea, or would you have to pick from the two options?
No, absolutely have different idea, and that's the whole point of having a structured process for financial advice, right? The fact is that there's no one size fit all, and you cannot have a blanket solution. You know, so a one or the other question doesn't work in financial planning at all, because what will work for you will not work for the next person, will not work for the next person. It depends on their personal circumstances. So what you want to do is you want to understand what this person's objectives are, what their circumstances are, what is their knowledge about different aspects of investing, for instance. The idea of a business, even when you talk about going into a business, what kind of business? There are different kinds of businesses. And would 10 million be sufficient for business A as capital? Would it be enough for business B as capital or business C? So the idea that you want to go into business would depend on whether there's a particular business that 10 million can justify a return on investment sufficient for that. So that could be an option. And whether that individual has the capabilities as well, because business in itself requires a certain set of skills to be able to manage that. So capital is not enough. You need skills. So does that individual have that capacity? Plus, if we add the money, then would that make sense? That could be a solution for one person. The idea of going out in itself is another very important decision to make, right? So if you're going to travel out of the country, what are you traveling to do? Are you traveling to study? Are you just traveling to go and hustle, as they say? And depending on what you're traveling to do and which country you're going to and how. You know, the research suggests that if you're going to live out of your country, it typically takes you about 7 years to adapt to that country. And so depending on the route or route, as some people call it, to, you know, how you're going out, which country you're going to, what you're going to do, what level of skills you already have could determine whether that could be a solution for you as well. There could still be an alternative, which is to say, what are you already doing back home? Is it good enough what you're doing back home? So if you're able to save up 10 million already at 25, do you really need to be going out? Could you be able to keep doing your job, whatever you're doing that was generating that income that you're able to save up, and then build an alternative income stream with another set of investment tools that does not require you to quit your job or to start a business outright? That's still a possibility. And so those are different options. And so the advice you give to one person will not be the same. It will be very circumstantial.
I see. I think another question that I would have with regards to the entire event and the purpose and the overall goal and what you're trying to achieve. I'm trying to find out what is in place for after the event. So because we have a lot of events in Douala or in Yaoundé, in most of these urban centers, where people go to and then there is little or no follow-up, but there's no clear-cut path into how they can practically implement most of the strategies and even get to use or exhaust the network which they get to connect with at events like this. So like, what do you envisage post the event for the people coming, to attend?
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for that question. I think it's important to state that the process of financial planning and wealth management is not a once-off. It's an ongoing process, a consistent process over the long term.
Yeah.
So basically, what we want to do is to, first of all, introduce the whole idea and framework of what it means to work with financial planners and how they will guide you to make financial decisions over different life stages. All right. And so post the event, we're opening up for people who want to go on that journey to sign up to one-on-one consultations. Post those one-on-one consultations, they will then be assigned to financial planners, experienced people across the continent who can then be their mentors, personal financial mentors or coach or guide, if you want to call it that, but they are called financial planners. And it's important to state here that this is a very regulated activity, which means that the advice they give is structured in a way that it's regulated either in South Africa or in Rwanda, such that if there are complaints down the line, there is a process to be able to bring those complaints and get them addressed. And because it's regulated, these planners are vetted. They have been trained, vetted, and positioned to be able to give that advice in different contexts and for different individuals. And if they don't give it according to the process in place, they can actually face fines or penalties or even imprisonment. In South Africa, you can actually be imprisoned up to 5 years if you don't provide proper financial advice. So it's about giving access to this professionalized financial services, framework, and more importantly, help people to be able to navigate different stages. Because today you may be single and you start the process, 2-3 years down the line, you get married. There's a third party in there now, and it may change the game. Or how do you bring that into the conversation and carry on to go, to meet that plan? So the financial advisory process is a long-term relationship between the advisor and the client or the individual. And so ultimately, even post-retirement, you still need your financial advisors. My clients, I have clients who are 70 and 80-year-olds who have been advising for the last 10, 15 years. Yeah. And so that's the process that individuals will end up, depending on our program, will be going through.
Okay. I would like to find out from you on a very basic level.
Yes.
Because this is a concept that is, I would say, relatively new. I mean, it's existed long enough, but to the younger audience, it might sound a little bit far-fetched off to them. Like speaking to the average 20, 21, the average young, worker in Cameroon, they might not be so versed with the term. I think maybe this might even be their first time.
Yes.
Yeah, getting in contact with that word, certified financial planner.
Yes.
So I'm trying to, get like what's the easiest way that I can explain to someone, what exactly a financial planner is supposed to do and why are they important for me to even, work with them at this stage of my career.
Okay.
To say so.
Yeah, I think one way to put it is that they are a financial doctor.
Okay.
All right. So you think if you go into a doctor and you say you have a headache, all right, there are different causes of headaches. Okay. A proper doctor would examine you, would ask you a lot of questions. What have you been eating? Where were you last night? All of these kinds of things. What's your weight? What's your height? All of these things. What's your blood pressure doing? All of these things. They'll do all of that. And then they will narrow down the options of what could be the cause of the headache. The headache in itself could be a symptom of a different problem. Okay. And so that's what your medical professional would do, right? To ultimately diagnose exactly what's wrong with you. That's exactly what financial planners do with your finances. By consulting with you, they are able to pick out the areas where, the different issues around your finances may lay. They will guide you and educate you about them and why they think that those are the areas. And then they will give you solutions on what they think would solve a particular area in your financial planning. So just to give an example on the financial side, if you say to me that you want to invest, you want to have, say, 10 million in 10 years, right? As an investment. And I say to you, okay, how much do you want to be putting aside every month? Or do you have a lump sum, right? Depending on whether you have a lump sum or you want to put in a certain amount monthly, I would ask you more questions. Do you understand financial instruments and what is your attitude to risk, for instance? You may tell me you're cautious. Somebody else may say they are aggressive. Somebody else may say they are balanced, whatever it is. But because there are different attitudes to risk, it means that the kind of strategy that I will have to put in place to arrive at that 10 million for you who is cautious will be different from the strategy I will put in place for you who is aggressive. And also depending on the kinds of solutions you have access to, that will then determine whether you can achieve that objective in 10 years. For someone else, I may say 10 years is too long. Maybe you want to do 5 years. For somebody else, I would say maybe it's 8 years. And for somebody else, I'll be like, no, that's an impossible target. Maybe you should drop it down to 5. And maybe you should be putting this because your budget doesn't allow you to put X, Y, and Z. So you can see that Again, for one individual or for one problem, there's not the same solution. And so your doctor or your financial doctor will do that assessment and then guide you on a strategy that is aligned to you. So I hope that brings clarity.
Yeah, that brings a lot of clarity. I have two more questions.
Okay.
So I think that what I want to ask now is, it's not really a question, but I just want you to shed more light on. I think a couple of days ago, we met. And, you used the term, and I want you to shed more light on that term in context to how it relates to Cameroonians' lifestyle inflation.
Lifestyle inflation. Yes. Basically, it's the idea that as our income increases, our expenses increase. The actual amount we spend on our expenses increase. We have expenses can be broken down into needs and wants. Okay. Most of the time, you would think that we should be spending on our needs. Okay. And that's okay. We should be spending on our needs. And then wants are really the luxurious things that we don't need to live on and we want to get. Those ones definitely are already a problem. Okay. The lifestyle inflation kicks in where if I need a house and I figured I want to live in a house of 200 million, do I really need to live in a house worth 200 million, for instance? Or I want to live in Bonaprism, okay? Or should I be living in Lopko? Or should I be living in Bonaberry? And in Bonaberry, where in Bonaberry, right? That choice, that decision of where I want to live and what kind of a house I want to live in determines how much I have to spend on a house. But what's the use of a house? It's to provide safety, comfort, security. It's true there are other considerations today. But if I were to go by the pragmatic use of a house, I probably need to be living in a house of 50 million. But because of these choices, I now feel like I have to live in a house of 200 million. That's 150 million difference is lifestyle inflation. The same thing with the decision to buy a car. If I want to buy a car and I'm young and I just say, okay, I'm going to buy I don't know what we have here, some Toyota Camry or something, and it's going to cost me 5 million, for argument's sake. And I said no, because I'm sure everyone have arrived. They must know that I've hit it hard. I'm now working in this bank and all of that. I will rather go buy a car for 15 million. Right? Do I need a car for 15 million? I may need a car, but not necessarily for 15 million. That difference again between 15 million and 5 is lifestyle inflation. It's basically the choices that we make that drive our expenses, thereby depleting our resources, and we don't have enough to create real wealth. Because if you make those decisions, you're saving up, and then you can now use that excess money that you would have wasted on those houses and cars to now put them in investment vehicles that can create you real wealth in the long term. So that's what lifestyle inflation is about. And we do that in many different ways. We do that in the decisions we make about the number of clothing items we should have, the brands we should have. Do I need to have, even the watch I'm wearing, for instance, do I need to have a Rolex? Or do I need to be wearing this? And the difference between that, what does it do, right? So that's really the kinds of decisions. And we've got to the point where for most people, it's what I call autopilot, which means the decision is made without thinking. But what we want to do is get to a point where we are very intentional and, we question those decisions. Why am I doing this? Is it necessary? By doing that, we'll be able to contain our expenses at reasonable levels. What you want to do is make sure that as your income is increasing, your expenses should stay the same. For most people, as their income increase, their expenses increase. And that's not ideal because then you don't have the excess to create the real wealth. So that's what lifestyle inflation is about. And I can tell you it affects not only us here in Cameroon, it's an African thing. It's probably a global thing, actually. There's a lot of marketing in people's faces on things to buy. You You want to get the latest fashion item, the phones, our phones now, before you're done with iPhone 6, you want to get, there's a new version every year. You don't even use up to 10% of the features here, and you want the next version and the next version and the next version. So those are the things that are actually eroding our wealth. And it's worse for Africa. Why? Because most of these things, we don't make them. We import them. And because we import them, we are literally giving away our wealth by buying things we don't need. And that is why we don't have enough to develop our economies. Because our businesses, which are predominantly small and medium-sized businesses, need this capital, but it's being spent on all these different wants.
I see. And my final question. So what's one thing you know about finance now that you wish you knew earlier? Let's say when you were just starting out with your career.
I love that question. I think there are so many. One thing is to start now, right? Start now. Wherever you are, just start. Okay. That's the first thing I'll say. Second thing is that I have a lot more appreciation for what it means to do long-term wealth. I remember back when I just left university, working for one of the microfinance institutions in Cameroon, as a national accountant. I had access to a bit of money. When I look back now, it wasn't a lot of money. I thought back then that it was a lot. And I remember almost every day after work, we had to go sit down somewhere and share a drink or two. If I put that 10,000 that was being spent and dripping it into an investment 10 years ago, 15 years, 20 years ago, actually, my case is more, 23 years ago, right? At the expense of how old I am, right? It's at least 20, 22, 23 years ago.
Okay.
If I put that money into an investment that was just generating 5% every year, by the time I even left Cameroon, I would have probably had already one important house, before going to hustle out of the country, right? But that's to demonstrate to you the power of compounding. And the thing about investing is that long-term investing is about compounding, and it's compounding small increments, which ultimately balloons at some point. So those who are just coming on now, don't waste your money on trying to shop. Don't waste your money on trying to hang out with the guys every weekend. You can do it once a month, maybe. Of course, it's important to socialize and connect, but you don't have to go above board. And it's important to really be frugal with your money, to put them in things that will compound and generate wealth for you over time. And to know that we really don't have a lot of time. We all think we have time, but before you know it, 40s will creep out on you very quickly, and you'll be regretting why you didn't put your money in some of these things. So that's really, for me, what I've learned in this journey. There are a lot more complex things out there I do these days. And today I'm trying to catch up with a lot of my decision making around how I spend my money, trying to keep my expenses as low as possible while increasing my income exponentially.
That was perfect. So you've heard from him. Thank you so much for the opportunity for us to peek inside your brain.
It's a pleasure.
And I look forward to seeing you all at the Staran on the 13th of December. There's so much, as you can tell from this conversation. I don't want to make it too long, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to have conversations in person and also become part of what's growing here. And yeah, I look forward to having you guys come and be with us on the 13th of December 2025. Thank you.